Good morning, Dr. Soud Thani. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to Doha Forum.
Thank you for having me here.
So despite being largely fossil fuel producing nations, GCC countries are making really significant investments in green tech and sustainability initiatives. What do you see as the vision behind these investments?
Okay, so what we notice with the GCC countries that there is a trend and transition toward investing into technologies and energies that are more sustainable. And this is not only limited to investment, they actually also go in deploying in sustainable projects. And this is driven by many reasons. One of them is these countries are looking into diversifying their own economies. Then also to cut on their CO2 emissions, which is in line with the global emission toward the global compact. So one of the reasons is, as you notice with the GCC countries, there had been a lot of investment into topics like carbon capturing and storage facilities. There's investment into hydrogen productions. For example, we notice with Qatar that Qatar is really investing heavily into the production, the topic, and when it comes to R&D, also into projects related to blue hydrogen and ammonia. Would they see it as being the future? When you look at the regional level, for example, Oman is one of the leading countries in that field, which invest into green hydrogen, where they have invested in $10 billion into development facilities for this type of production. In addition, the region is also looking into topics like renewable energies. So they invest into solar, they invest into wind, and also in the usage of hydrogen at a regional level, which they see that there's availability of these type of renewable energy in this region as much as fossil fuel.
Are the GCC countries cooperating on joint initiatives that can be mutually beneficial, or do you see that if it's not now, is it somewhere in the future?
So when it comes to, for example, Oman has been one of the leading countries when it comes to the topic of hydrogen. And we see from Ministry of Environment, we have been invited a lot to be involved in some of their workshops, some of their initiatives at a local level. When you look at the GCC countries, you understand, some of the countries, for example, some of the neighboring countries are very small. So they have to count on neighboring country to provide them with a source of energy, a cleaner source of energy. For example, gas is still considered to be cleaner, and at the same time, of the facilities is developed. For example, in Qatar, we do 10% of our energy currently is produced from renewable energy, 10% of it. So it's a big figure which comes from PVs. So there's a potential that to improve the profile of neighboring countries, there has to be a cooperation between us, yes.
Everywhere you go around the Gulf, you see lots of cranes, lots of building, lots of development, but construction and building can be harmful to the environment in terms of CO2 emissions and materials waste. How can we build in a way that's more sustainable, and how do you see the built environment being actually like a source of sustainability?
So when it comes to my background, I'm originally an architect, and I have been working with many entities in Qatar, especially Qatar Foundation. And I tell you, for the last 10 years of my experience with Qatar Foundation and other, Qatar has been adapting sustainable building practices, which they do have a great impact on the environment. You can reduce CO2 emissions, you can use water in this building more efficiently. In addition, you can control the waste coming out of these buildings. So what you notice as, for the GCC countries, they always want to have a good reputations. When it comes to these countries, they want to show something very visible. When it comes to, and you notice this for example, in the new districts or the advanced districts. For example, like Qatar Foundation Education City, Sharib district, where they use the cutting edge technologies when it comes to the building practices. And this is not only in Qatar. You notice the same practices are done in Saudi, done in Oman, done in UAE. So there's a common theme in these countries that this is the right way to do things. And it doesn't stop only at this. We also looked into the health and the comfort of the users. So we make sure that the indoor air quality is quite good. So you notice that these buildings are designed to be to have a lot of natural ventilation, way of filtering these the air coming into these buildings. In addition, the choices of materials used within these buildings. So you provide comfort and quality of life. These topics also extend to the infrastructures. There has been a lot of investment in the infrastructures. So we noticed that there has been used a lot of recycled content within the construction materials. When it comes to water, there had been always an update or modernization of our water utilities and the use of smart metering. So to end this question, as a person who works in two entities, I can tell you from the audits we do to some of these buildings, there's an effect to use these type of practices.
Let's talk about technology. Artificial intelligence can play a big role in mitigating the harmful effects of climate change. How are you incorporating AI into, let's say, properties like Masharib or other new development areas?
So, 10 years ago, there was something said about sustainability. At the beginning, it was said that it's a buzzword. But later on, actually, sustainability, it started with a buzzword, and later on, there was an impact to the idea of sustainability. So now we see it in everything in your life. AI is currently is very trendy topic, and it's quite new. And if you looked at it from a technology and science perspective, at a word level, it's not really that available at this moment. But it does have the potential. So when it comes to the environment, you look into the topic of the analysis of the big data, finding patterns that can help in shaping and making decisions for governments. So from the perspective from Ministry of Environment, Qatar is one of the countries famous for having a harsh weather. But Ministry of Environment need to collect data, so need it for data observation and data collection. So one of the projects that we currently look into with some of the institutions in Qatar, the use of AI, robot, to collect data in the deserts, so it's in the harsh environment. So with our partners as a Ministry of Environment, there's other areas that they can look into, like energy efficiency. They can look into by using AI, increasing the smart grid in Qatar. And one of the interesting topic that everybody talking about in the GCC region was talking about electrification of our transportation systems. So there's a lot of potential for AI, but I think we're still at an early stage. But I think this type of platform, I know it's not a very technical platform, Doha Forum, but I think Doha Forum is always looked into trendy topics to discuss in it.
Lastly, I want to talk about electric vehicles, whether it's public transportation like buses or personal vehicles, cars. There have been potentially some challenges with regards to infrastructure in introducing electric vehicles in this neighborhood. What are some of the things that you're working on to support the sale of electric or hybrid vehicles, whether public or private transit?
So when it comes to Qatar or in general to the GCC, this is currently one of the trends that happening right now. So from the perspective of somebody who's working in the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we see this is something is coming. There's a replacement for fossil fuel cars with the electric in the future. But to understand the current challenges, so the first challenge will be I'll characterize them into three challenges. Availability of technologies regarding electric vehicles. Second one is the infrastructure for the charging stations in Qatar. And the last one is the social awareness about electric vehicles. So we need to think the World Cup because it did expedite some of our future plans. So if you notice, by 2030 there was one of the strategies is to electrify or to use electric buses in Qatar 100%. So what happened with the World Cup, we noticed that there was a change in the buses and we have reached around 70% electric buses in Qatar by 2022. The other things is we have been working with key stakeholders in Qatar, one of them the Ministry of Transportation, where they came up with the electric vehicle strategy, and they came with a master plan for 2050 and included some targets to be reached by 2050. At the Ministry of Environment, in the last few days, we have invited around 150 volunteers who own a car to do an electric car show where they invited public and they addressed all their questions regarding this. And this was one of our approaches regarding the awareness. So Qatar target by the year 2030 is to exceed 10%, but this is worst case scenario, and we're hoping to reach this number and exceed it. So when it comes to electric cars, this is one of our priorities. Currently we're working on at an awareness stage, but in the future we're more likely to work on more aggressive approaches.
Thank you so much, Dr. Soud Khalifa Al Thani. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.